This is Beach Talk Radio.
Good morning, Mr. and all ships at sea. This is your captain speaking, Bean Gene. Bean Gene. The following will be a test of the ship's whistle, the sonar alarm, the cable alarm, and the atomic attack alarm.
Hello, America, and welcome to the #1 radio station in all of Fort Myers Beach. Beach Talk Radio. Here are your hosts, Kim and Ed Ryan.
And a good Monday evening to you all out there. This is Monday with the Mayor, episode number 2. Ed Ryan here, the host of the program, and wanted to thank the Mayor for coming on an hour early. And the reason for that, everybody, is because there is another meeting tonight at 6 o'clock. It's the Save Our Schools second meeting that they're having at the Skip One building. So we wanted to make sure that Dan could get out to that meeting, which he's committed to, but not miss this program tonight. So if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat box. Dan, thanks so much for coming on.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
So the biggest question that seems to be going around the community right now is what's going on with the mail service. And I don't know if you have a better answer than anyone we've been trying to get it from. It doesn't seem like we can get a straight answer, but what have you heard?
Well, probably the same thing everyone else has heard. We're having a struggle getting a hold of anybody at the USPS to give us an answer. In the meeting today, I asked if Vice Mayor Adderholt could take on the project of trying to reach out to Senator Scott, who's on the committee, I believe, for the post office, to see if we can get any headway to getting some sort of solution, or at least an answer as to how soon our residents can get the mail back delivered to the island.
Are there enough residents that you know of, Dan, that actually have a mailbox, or do we know if mail could even be delivered to their house, or do we want something closer to the beach? Where are they going now?
Well, it's Jet Road. People have to go to Jet Road. I don't remember the exact address, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a mailbox in front of your house. It could be something on a property somewhere to, much like they do at apartment buildings or something. Got the big boxes outside. There's got to be some solution we can think of outside the box to be able to bring the mail closer to the residents so they don't have to keep going on and off the island. It's a long round trip to go get your mail, and some things are being sent back. People are waiting for checks from insurance companies, and some of them aren't getting through, and it's creating some havoc when people really need to get these checks to themselves, from their insurance companies through FEMA, wherever they're getting money from. Mm-hmm. We need to do as best we can to get them closer to the island and make sure that they're getting what they need.
For anybody watching, if you haven't seen our Facebook page yet, we put the Postmaster General's email address up there and mailing address if you want to try and reach out to the guy in charge. And I also sent an email to a local contact I found to see if we can get an interview with somebody, or at least get some information about that. So if I hear back, I will certainly share that with everybody on a show or in a Facebook post.
Yeah, they committed to, I think they committed to rebuilding the Fort Myers and Sanibel one, but, a lot of people don't know, or maybe they do know, that the post office doesn't actually have a building. They were renting their space here on the island. So I'm sure part of the dilemma is dealing with the landowner or the building owner, trying to find out who I have not spoken to. So I'm not sure what the status is of that building as far as the 50-50 rule and rebuilding it goes.
Yep. And we also finally got had somebody help us out, looked up the owner of the building. So we'll call them just to see if we can attack it from that angle too. I wanted to do a quick follow-up from last week. Have you heard back from anybody at 7-Eleven? I know you mentioned that last week and that came up. Any contact with the 7-Eleven folks?
I have not this week, no, or over the weekend. I did see some posts about they're working on the South End ones, but have not heard from, actually I shouldn't say that. I did hear from, thanks for reminding me, I got to call him back here today, the owners of the two northern ones. He called and left me a message. I can't remember the name, but he's a council member from Naples that owns those. So I have to give him a call back. Thanks for reminding me.
So let's see. If anyone has any questions, by the way, for the mayor, just feel free to type them in and we'll pull them up on the screen and try and get some answers for you. Let's see. The next question I wanted to ask you about was, do you have a Friday town hall set up? Can you kind of give us the details on what that's all about?
Yeah, so Director Guthrie from the state will be there. FEMA will be there. Our staff will be there. I can't remember if the fire department's going to be there or not, but pretty much anyone that needs to answer any questions that our residents have, they can come out on Friday from 6 to 7:30 at where we hold the town hall meetings, which would be that northernmost tent closest to the back of the Tops property. You could come in, you can ask your questions. I'll be moderating. So anyone that has questions, we'll make sure that you get the answers that you can from the people that can answer them the best.
Got it. And if people want to come, if the residents of the beach want to come to the trailers during the week to ask questions about permits or things like that, there's security there for a reason, I think. Can you kind of explain, should they come and ask questions, or should they just not come and call? Or what do you want the residents to do if they're in the area and they want to come to town hall? Because it's certainly not the way.
Well, yeah, people have been coming in. I saw a few people today coming in. We do have a secretary or who you normally saw every time you came into town hall. She's sitting inside the tent where I'm sitting. People that do come get escorted in by one of the security people. Unfortunately, we had an incident where someone came in and caused a ruckus. I wasn't there. It was last Wednesday. I was out of town, but I heard from staff that it was a little aggressive. So unfortunately, it's, for the protection of the staff, and it's understandable. People are upset, and but taking it out on the right people, like I've said all along, if you've got a major issue, feel free to come and if you've got to yell at somebody, stand in my face and yell at me. These people are trying to do the best that they can, but by all means, if you have a question, you can come into the north side gate by the backside of Tops. They will walk you in may not get the answer right away, but they'll try to put you in contact with a person to be able to help answer whatever question that you have.
So the meeting tonight is at 6:00. I want to touch on that real quick. If anybody has interest in helping to save the beach school, it's at the Skip One building on the way to Fort Myers Beach on the right-hand side. And Dan is going to be there for that. Have you heard anything from last week to this week regarding the school? I know Chris Patrica is going to be there. She's a school board member, and the superintendent told you he was going to be there. So what can you fill us in, if anything different or new from last week?
No, all I know is that the parents asked for a meeting with Miss Patrica. She will be there. She asked for the superintendent to be there. It's my understanding it's going to be kind of a question and answer things. They just want to get some answers, some questions that have been looming out there that they feel that they want a little more detailed answers. So not sure exactly what to expect. I'll be there. I believe a couple of our commissioners will be there as well. So we're there to support and let them know how important that beach school is to our community. Hopefully they hear us. The fact that they're willing to come and meet us and talk to the residents and the concerned parents is a step in the right direction. So we'll see where it goes. I'll be there and hopefully have a better update for you next time you ask.
Is there anything new or different on this company that's offered to clean the school for free?
My understanding is they met with some of the superintendent's officials to take a look at it. I don't know where it stands. I know that they were talking about insurance, obviously, and signing waivers and things like that to remediate, if nothing else, at least the historic building of the school. So I'm not exactly sure where that's at. I haven't had a chance to talk with Mr. Bean yet, so I'm not exactly sure. Hopefully tonight we'll maybe get some answers on where that is. I don't know if he plans on attending or not, but they've had discussions.
Okay. I'm looking at my phone only because it looks like somebody just texted me a picture of one of the 7-Elevens that it looks like it was knocked down. So, and this one it looks like it's the one on Estero Boulevard by the Whale.
Can you hold it up by the, hold it up?
I don't know if you can see it with the light, but
it's hard to tell.
It looks like the whole building has been pushed over.
Okay.
Anyway, well, I guess that would be good news if that's actually a picture of a 7-Eleven being demolished. Unless they don't plan to rebuild it, then it would really suck. One of the things that was mentioned at the town council meeting today, Dan, was about the FPL representative came up and was talking about the power being flipped on, and there was something that perhaps residents didn't know, that they have to have their electrician flip on the main breaker, otherwise they'll never get power. So can you kind of recap that?
Yeah, no. So what she was saying is a lot of the calls that have come in for people that say they don't have power don't know that the meter has been installed. And the only way you would know is if you went and flipped the main, most people have a 200 amp breaker, which is either the very bottom or the very top, depending on, it's the very large one. What she was saying is that she highly recommends that your electrician flips that breaker, because once you flip that breaker, if none of your other breakers are shut off, you are now sending power throughout the house. So if you have a live circuit somewhere, it could start a fire. So they're just making sure that you have power to the meter. Once you flip that breaker, anything that happens inside the house is on you. So you want to make sure, if you don't understand breakers and you don't understand how it works, it's probably best that you have your electrician do that for you. So if there is an issue, they can fix it right away.
Or so was she kind of implying that some people might not know that that's a step they needed to take?
Yes, and
Okay.
and I have heard from people that said we don't have power. We're supposed to have power, and when I reply back to them that, go outside, if your meter is installed, is your switch inside on the off or on position, and they have an electrician come and flip, and they're like, oh, it was installed. We just didn't know we were supposed to do that. So
Got it.
they don't knock on your door if you're not there. They're going to put the meter in. They're going to get you power, and they're going to walk away. So it's inside your main panel. It's that main breaker. But again, as she said, it's probably best practice to have an electrician flip that for you, so that you're not burning your house down.
The other update you got was from Comcast, and it sounds like they're pretty well on their way to almost 100%. Like 90% of the island will be able to get Comcast by Thursday. So that was good news.
Yeah, they said, I think it was Coconut to Albatross, where is the last area that they haven't finished up yet, but they expect to have that done by the 8th. So Thursday, the rest of the island is pretty much up and running. If your house, again, just kind of like FPL, if your house is ready to receive the your Comcast connection or your pole, like for instance at my house, the line obviously coming from the pole to the house is gone. So I'm really in no rush because I have nothing inside the house. So I'm in no rush to get the Comcast hooked back up, but it's there. I can see the lines ready to be pulled over. It's just a matter of getting it done. But again, just like FPL, they'll come over and they pull the wire to your box inside. Once you go inside, that's a whole nother story.
I'll let you take this question here about the power. We don't have power because the town hasn't approved our permit for the electrician to work on it. You want to talk about permits at all?
Put
Or
that back up there again. I want to read it again for a second.
I left out the word.
Yeah, it's okay. Town hasn't approved our permit for the electrician to work on it. Are they talking about the main meter, to put the main meter in? I mean, have they? It's hard to. I mean, that's pretty vague. I need to know if they. Anyone that has had an issue that has emailed me about sending in their structural and their electrical sign off. Usually it's just a communication thing. And we talked about that at the meeting today, that people are calling the town and they're saying we've submitted everything. And then we go to FPL's tent and FPL tells us that we're not on the list. We haven't received anything from the town.
Right.
And they have to go back to the town. And the town's like, here's when the email was sent. I had the same issue at my house. So I completely sympathize and understand what everybody's going through. And I brought it up today. If there's a way that we can make it so that people aren't going back and forth, because with every trip you make to every tent, you just get more upset and more upset.
Yep.
And that's the last thing that we want. But as long as you've submitted your structural and your electrical to the town, I can assure you that if it hasn't been sent over, they send stuff every single day, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day over to FPL. They're saying now it could be 5 to 7 day lead time to be able to, once they receive the information, to go out and actually connect up your power. But again, check make sure your meter's installed. If it's installed, you have power. So take a look outside. I know, some people are getting upset that they don't have power, but they're still up north and they haven't actually looked at the house. So
boy, they really changed that turnaround time from 24 hours to 5 to 7 days.
they had to pull back. Yeah, they had to pull back resources. I mean, the first 30 days, the 60 days, you couldn't swing around in a circle without hitting an FPL truck. And obviously there's other places that they have to be, so they've pulled back on stuff. But she said today that even though they're saying 5 to 7 days, usually within 2 to 3 days, they have everybody back up and running as they get their stuff. So,
gotcha. So
again, if they want to email me their address and their information, I will certainly put them in touch with Steve, our building official, and he has been great about emailing people back right away and saying either we've received it or we haven't received it or we sent it on this date. So, the communication there is pretty good with Steve. He's getting on it as fast as he can.
Let's talk about FEMA trailers, Dan. I know you've been trying hard to see what the situation is with that, if they're ever going to show up on Fort Myers Beach. Fort Myers Beach is pretty much in a flood zone, and the rules for FEMA trailers are you can't have a trailer in a flood zone. Should Fort Myers Beach residents stop applying for trailers from FEMA?
Well, I certainly wouldn't stop. No, I mean, they, like with anything else, FEMA's doing the best that they can, and they don't know. They don't, when it goes, I'm guessing, I can't speak for FEMA, but I'm guessing when, kind of like when you call in your cable and you get someone on the phone that just, they read through a flow chart and tell you this, and then go for, if this is an issue, go to this thing. Putting them in the V zone is never going to happen. They flat out have told us, if you are in a V zone, you're not going to get a trailer. My problem that I had, and what I brought up today, and I brought up in the meeting on Friday, was we're giving people false sense of hope. Not just necessarily on the island. This is off the island too. If you're next to if you're in a flood zone off the island, you have the same issue. It's not just because you're on a beach. The issue I have is, if you're telling someone, thank you for applying, you're approved, we come out and measure it, and then you get told you can't have it because you live in a flood zone. That's where I have an issue, because you're building people's hopes up, and I talked to them before the meeting so that it wasn't something that was it's not an accusatory thing. Again, they're still looking. They've been out and looked at a couple different sites with me to try to put some trailers on to keep. Obviously, we want to keep everybody as close to the island as you can. They are looking at some camp mass sites, or whatever they call them, the FEMA cities, if you will, and other areas throughout Lee County, and trying to identify. As I said in the meeting, this is only an 18-month program, so they can do extensions. They said they do extensions, but we're two and a half months or whatever into the 18 months already. So by the time you find a site that, if it needs to be cleared, if you need to do the groundwork, you need to do the site work, that could take some time.
So what's the closest FEMA city property that they're looking at to Fort Myers Beach?
There's a couple, not in North Fort Myers. I'd have to go back and look. I don't have it in front of me, but they put it up on a board on the screen up there. There's a couple places around 75. Essentially, it sounds like similar places that they had for Charlie. I wasn't here for Charlie, but
not close at all.
They're not close to the beach. No. Ideally, it's not. No, they're not. They're not close, but they are looking for other alternatives. As I said in the meeting again today, they're looking for multi-unit properties. They're looking for apartments. They're looking for townhomes. They're looking for. The problem is, at least what they've told us, is a lot of people are not willing to commit to the 18-month time frame to house people.
Gotcha. So you mentioned V zone, that you're talking about a velocity zone. So anybody in a high velocity zone where water is going to come at you pretty fast is a no-go no matter what. And so how much of Fort Myers Beach is that?
I don't know the exact percentage, but I've also shown them places that are in AE zone, and they said that this could work. And then after there, so once you find something that's not a flood zone, at least to me, it appears that they start looking at it, and then they have to look into other things, historical things. They have to look in other environmental. They have to look at all these other things that they have to follow in order to be able to safely put these trailers there. So just because you're in the one property we showed them was an AE zone, which obviously wasn't a flood, but there were other issues why they couldn't put it there. So it's kind of like a flow chart. Like I said, there's this one, you can't do it here, we'll try here. It's not that they don't want to. It's their rules. They follow their rules, and we'll just keep trying to find alternatives.
Isn't all of Fort Myers Beach a flood zone? The entire island?
Well, I guess we found out it was, didn't we?
Yeah. So DeSantis launched some kind of program for housing too. Does the state have to follow the same rules as FEMA follows? In other words, you can't put a trailer in a flood zone?
Essentially, yeah. So they have their program is a 6-month program. So it's even shorter than FEMA. And when you file, it's my understanding that when you file for FEMA assistance, they will look at it and figure out if you can go one way or another. If you can go into a short term, depending on your situation. It's all on how you answer questions is what I'm finding out. Depending on when you do your interview, how you answer questions determines on if you go into a 6-month program or 12 or 18-month program, or you don't get assistance at all. So yes, they have to
We're
follow.
not, we're not even talking about the time frame, because we don't even know if we know that neither the state or the feds are going to approve a trailer in a flood zone, right? So it's a waste of people's time to try.
Well, no, because about a trailer,
Yes.
yeah, maybe, but you
Okay.
still should apply. It doesn't mean that you're not going to get housing somewhere else. It doesn't mean
Gotcha.
there's not other options. And
Gotcha.
I raised the question about, and I've talked to you about it. Does that mean that there's no way? That doesn't mean you can't go get your own trailer if you have the means to rent one or buy a cheap one or whatever and put it on your property. You could still do that. You don't have to follow the rules that they have to follow, but you're not getting it for free. You're not getting, you still have to do all the things. If you want to get power, if you want to run it. So with the FEMA trailers, you have to have the water, the power. You have to have all that stuff temporarily put in, which you have to pay for. That's not paid for by FEMA. So doesn't mean you can't go get your own trailer and put your own trailer on your own property.
Right, because the town council approved that you can get a fifth wheel or a trailer and put it on your property while you're rebuilding. And I think,
in a storage container, like a pod or something, that was also
Okay.
in.
Have you ever lived in a pod?
Not recently.
No, I don't. Same would be claustrophobic to me.
Yeah.
So as far
Ventilation
as
may be a problem.
as far as the last question about the trailer thing, if the town has approved that, if I remember correctly, the town was also going to either pay for or try and help get the power and the water and the sewer connected. What is the town? Would the town wouldn't pay for that, but they would help get that through, right? Make it happen.
Well, there's been some confusion as to how that whole thing goes in. The town can help with the water part but the electric, obviously, that has to come from FPL. So Charlotte said today in the meeting that they've got something they're going to release as far as the process to get the temporary poles hooked up. So as soon as we have that, we'll make sure that everybody else gets it.
Okay. So there was some discussion today, and it comes to one of the questions the folks have sent in about the debris at Bay Oaks. It doesn't look like anytime soon, according to what they were saying today. John Ward was saying today that the Bay Oaks facility will stop receiving debris because it's close. You want the trucks to get in and out, pick up the debris. If they have to drive to Lover's Key or have to drive to a place further away, it's just going to make the process take longer. So is that the conclusion that we should all come to, that Bay Oaks is going to be a debris site for a while?
Well, the town manager and I were talking about that this afternoon before I left. And from the beginning, if I remember correctly, that, the county and the town were working on the debris before the state picked it up. And if I remember correctly, that the town had to get into an agreement with the county about Bay Oaks, basically sign the temporary given use for the property to be able to remove that debris and stage that debris. So we're going to look and see if we could figure out what that contract is. What, is there a time limit on it? Is it a 6 month, 1 month? What is that before we can even start talking about moving? But to your point and to John Ward's point, yes, having the faster we can get these trucks to clean up the debris on the side of the road. And anybody that's been down there sees that they've done an extraordinary job. But every day you drive down the road, it's like there's a new pile because a new house came down or another building got pushed to the road. It's like as soon as a pile goes away, another one comes back. So this is going to be going on for quite a long time. And the faster we can get it put somewhere so that they can keep picking it up. They're moving it out at night. So they're loading these trucks up after dark and they're starting to send them down to the next processing plant. So is it unfortunate that it has to be there? Yes. Do I wish it couldn't be there? Yes. But it's a need that we have right now. We have to be patient. When it's done, it gets put back to normal. So we just have to be patient. It's being done for a purpose, and we've got to be patient.
Right. Yeah. So a question from Jody: who's responsible for the cars out of the back bay? Any update on how the cleaning?
The state is handling that as well. So they're cleaning up the debris in the canals. They're cleaning up the boats and all that kind of stuff. So they're working on that through FWC.
What is your give us an update on the permitting process today? It sounded like they're starting to get overwhelmed with the permits, more and more coming in, and the staff is still at the same level. And we lost the person originally that was running that department. Somebody else is in there now. So give the people an update on permits.
Yeah, so I think they said 2,700 permits have come in so far since the storm. There is a couple more staff members that are in there reviewing. We are fully aware of the permit. I've been fully vocal about the permitting process from the beginning. They know that I want it to get better. They're trying to get it better. The state is sending some assets in to help us streamline the process. But the more we as residents, including myself, the more we can make it easier on them. As I said in the meeting today, if you provide the letter from LIPA.org, that saves time. If you include the filled out form that they need for what your project costs, that saves time, because they're just going to come back and ask you for it if you don't have it. So if when you do your bid package, I've seen some of these bid packages that are fantastic and then there's no question and they go right through. And I've seen some that are just put in basically saying that I want a permit and there's no other documentation that goes with it. So those are the ones that go back to the people, and then we get into that whole thing. So they're doing the best that they can. We do have people coming in. You have to give us time. The town manager is new. He's trying to wrap his head around where we're at. It's not just permitting that we have some issues with. So he's doing the best that he can to get behind everything. He just, as he mentioned today, put Steve in Daphne's position. Our building official is now in there for, at least till we find a permanent solution for that. I can tell you in the few times I've had the opportunity, I try not to bug him because he's always busy. But the few times that I've had a chance to talk to him, he's very knowledgeable. He knows exactly what he's doing. He understands the issues that people are having with the permitting process. And I know people get tired of hearing me say about being patient, but we've got people coming in, we've got help, but it takes time. It's going to take some time. I mean, I've only been doing the mayor part here for 2-3 weeks. So, change takes a little bit of time, but help is on the way. I've in the last week, I've actually had 3 people contact me to make sure that I pass on how smooth the permitting process went for them. They got their permit very quickly. So that's hope.
The best advice, it sounds like right now, is because there's so many permits coming in and because the staff is kind of short staffed right now, do all the detail that you can. Make sure that your permit application is spectacular, that nothing is missing, no questions need to be asked, and that'll probably help get it through quicker.
Yeah, and it goes through pretty quick. It goes through. It's got to go through a couple different review places, depending on what it is. If it's just a roof permit, or if it's just windows, or if it's a whole gut, if it's a demolition, they all go to different people. It just depends on the magnitude of the permit and how detailed you are. It makes their job that much easier. So, I've seen some that have come in for remodels that you could just tell by looking at it that they're playing with the numbers, and it makes it difficult and puts people in a tough spot when they have to say, we need you to take a little better look at this. We know that you're not drywalling your entire house for $1,500.
So let's talk real quick about the debris percentage thing. In 2 days, I think it's 2 days. You guys were saying tomorrow, but I thought it was the 7th. I guess it really doesn't matter. It goes from 100% to 90%. There was a little bit of a better explanation, I thought, revenue-wise, who's going to pay it today. Can you explain how that is going to work so the town isn't on the hook for debris removal when both the governor and the president said, you're going to need more time, and they gave us 15 days? Yeah,
the big concern or the big question was people thought that in 2 days the trucks were going to disappear and nobody's going to pick up any more debris, and that's not the case. The trucks will be here. They'll keep picking up the debris. The question comes down to who picks up the tab on it. And what you're talking about is it goes to 90%, 10%. So 90% is covered by FEMA. 10% is covered locally, meaning usually that's a split between the state and the town. So we'd be responsible for 5% of that debris cleanup. We're still working with the state to try to, we've got a delegate meeting coming up. There's ways that we could do. There's grants. There's other things that we can do to get matches to try to offset that cost or cover it completely. It's just until we get to that point, we don't know. Are they going to extend it again? When I say they, I mean FEMA. Are they going to extend it 2 more weeks again? We just don't know that yet. So I don't want people to think that they're, as John very eloquently said today, the trucks are not leaving tomorrow or the next day. They're still going to be here. It's just going to shift what the responsibility is as far as paying for it. So in talking to state officials, they've assured me that for us to focus on other things and not to worry about this because they're helping us out. And talking with our town manager, who's been through this several times, he said there's ways that we can offset this cost. So Do we have to be cognizant of it? Absolutely. To know exactly what that number is going to be, we need to know as best we can what that's going to be, so we know what we have to ask for. But people that have been through this more times than any of us have know what they're doing, and we have to, we have to follow their lead. If they tell us not to worry about something, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to take them for their word, and I'm going to move on to something else that we can worry about.
Mm-hmm. Now the permits are still free. When does that expire for the residents, and when will they start?
90 days, which it's somewhere January 17th, I think they said today. I don't know the exact date, but somewhere around there is when the permit fee would be waived. And that goes back to that permitting, as the town manager said today. We tried. It's kind of one of those, when you try to do something good for people, there's always something that usually bad comes out of it. Right. And by relieving the permit fees for people, we have put the building department in a tough spot, because that money goes to fund their department. We've taken that money away. So hiring new people, that money has to come from somewhere. And that's going to have to be a policy decision by the council at some point to figure out when we get the resources that we need. And I can tell you that the town manager has been very vocal about, you as department heads, you tell me what you need. And I've been very vocal to him that you need to tell us as a council what you need, so that we can give you the resources you need, so that, part of my job, as I've said, is to protect the staff. If people are upset with the staff, they should be upset with me and take it out on me. Don't take it out on the staff. They're doing the best they can in the circumstances that they're put in. And if we make the circumstances tougher for them, then that's on us. That's on me. So I'll take that. We'll figure it out. We'll get through it. We'll make it better. But that's one of those, you try to do something good and something bad comes out of it. So,
well, it's almost like the parking. And I don't know if you can even do this. If like on Saturday when we did the show, I paid for parking, even though I know you're not writing tickets, because there's no revenue coming into the town. I wonder if people are given the option to pay for their permit, if they can afford to pay for it. Are they allowed to do that, or they're totally not allowed to do it because you have this 90-day moratorium? I mean, maybe some people, want to see and make sure they can help to keep the town solvent. Is there an option that's available for somebody? Well, I mean, it's not going to break the bank, that's for sure.
Well, I think Vice Mayor Adderhall brought that up today towards the end of the meeting. He kind of mentioned a little bit about, maybe I'm sure if someone wants to voluntarily pay for their permit, whatever that fee is, I highly doubt that the town's going to say no, thank you. But how many of those people are out there? I mean, not everybody's going to go pay for parking just out of the goodness of their heart. Does it help the town? Absolutely. But we've waived the fees till the 17th, so that's what we're dealing with. And when parking starts getting, they start writing tickets again, we'll make sure everybody knows that it's coming. So,
gotcha. So Jerry asks, he's got I don't know if you know the answer to this, but we'll ask it. He has a freezer on the curb that's been passed by several times. Who can he call to get that removed? Whose responsibility is that?
If it's on the right of way, it's under the same thing. It's going to get picked up by Crowder Golf. It's going to get picked up under the states. It may not happen today. It may take a week. I've seen a lot of it. Unfortunately, I've seen it on the island going up and down the streets, where I know, for instance, my neighbor put all his stuff out on the corner or out on the right of way, and all of his stuff was picked up. 2 days later, when I went by, there was 6 more appliances sitting in his front yard. So people are dropping appliances off in someone else's yard because they're tired of seeing them in front of their yard. But unfortunately, we can't catch everybody that's doing something like that. You just got to be patient. Nobody likes to look at the debris. Nobody wanted to have 12 feet of water in their house either, but you just got to be patient. You got to let it takes time. It just takes time to get this debris picked up, but they do come by and they pick them up. It's different. The one trucks pick up the C&D, the construction and debris. Then you've got a vegetation truck that comes around, and then you also have one that picks up the appliances. So it's not the same truck that does it. Same truck, but at different times they do different things.
Well, Dan, what time do we have to end this so you can get to the meeting? I don't want to run over so you're late. I know it's important.
Pretty quickly here. I gotta have to go pretty soon. Another couple of minutes.
All right. So the speaking of the debris, real quick, when you talk to Lee County, when you leave the beach and you drive back to the beach, and I know this isn't on the beach, but on the right-hand side, there are bags of garbage and appliances that are properly separated, you can tell, that have been there since the day after the storm, that the piles are just getting bigger and bigger. What is Lee County doing anything on that road, or are they doing anything on Main Street? So you look on the left side of the bridge going over, and it looks like the debris piles are gigantic. Are there trucks are even coming there?
Yeah, well, I can tell you the last 2 days since Saturday, the amount of debris that's been removed on San Carlos Island has been tremendous. Main Street, as you mentioned, just in the last 24 hours, the amount of debris they've pulled off it. Buttonwood, the amount of debris they've pulled off it here. So, there's only so many trucks to go around, and Lee County is a big county, so they're moving them around the best that they can. Yeah, but they are making progress. If you drive down Main Street today, you wouldn't realize how much has been taken away unless you saw it on Saturday.
Gotcha. Any word from Lee County on starting the rebuilding of the pier?
Nothing yet. No, I haven't had a conversation yet over the weekend, but the last, as I told you last week, and speaking with our Commissioner Sandelli, they have not had any discussions about it as of yet. So as soon as I know something, I'll pass it on. And
I did send a text to Cecil Pendergrass just because I'm trying everybody, and he said there is a time frame that he was going to get details to us as soon as he could. So hopefully he knows something that nobody else knows, and we can pass that along to everybody, because it's one of those. I think it's one of those symbolic things, just like the poinsettia tree was, and that by the way, that went off great, and it was great for the community. And hats off to you and the staff for that.
Well, everybody. I mean, I know you and I had talked about it a couple of weeks ago, but I thought it'd be cool to see it. And it was really neat that it organically, without anybody even knowing that we had talked about it, or we were trying to work with staff to find the tree itself, that people just started putting them there on their own. So it's one of those things that I believe in karma, and it was meant to be. And that was good karma, and people really liked it. And I won't say their names, but I want to thank the family that donated they want to stay anonymous, but They donated those 400 poinsettia plants so that could be done, and the town staff, Jason Freeman and the public works guys, just facilitated. They went out and got them, but this family on the beach paid for them, and it's giving people a lot of joy, a lot of hope, a lot of pictures. So a lot of color to the beach now. It's nice to see a little bit of color there, and not just the gray sand.
And I know you're going to have an update for us on Bayside Park at some point that we can talk about. Just want to make sure people know that
it's still working. It's still working, but it's everything takes time. When you're not going into your wallet to pay for something, sometimes it takes a little bit longer. But as long as we have partners willing to help us make that happen, I can be patient. I can wait and just know that it's coming. And I've been assured that it's going to happen. Just got to dot the I's across the T's, if you will.
All right, Dan, we know you got to run to the meeting. Thanks for your time, and we'll get back to our regular time next Monday at 6:00 for episode number 3. And good luck tonight at the Save Our School meeting. Thanks, Dan.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Mayor Dan Allers, everybody. The reason, in case you're joining us late, I apologize. We ran this show an hour early because of the Save Our School meeting that's at Skip 1. That the parents and the teachers are organizing. The school superintendent is supposed to be there, and also Chris Patrica, the representative for the Fort Myers Beach area, is also going to be there with all the parents taking questions. We have somebody recording the comments from the superintendent and from the school board member that once we get that, we'll be able to share that with you in a news story. Our news headlines will be out tomorrow morning before 7:00 with all the information from the town council meeting today. And we want to thank you all for coming out on Saturday for our event. We helped to gather enough toys for the Beach Kids Foundation, and we're able now to shift our gathering of toys to a different area, and we'll pass that along to you this week too. So if you want to keep donating toys, we're going to be able to spread some love and joy for the holidays to some other folks that also need that. So if you have any other questions for the mayor, you can feel free to send them in all week long. We collect them and send them over to him on Friday so that he's prepared for the show on Monday and has time to do some research if he needs to do that. You can order the blue hoodies later in the week. As soon as I have them, we're going to do the hoodies a little differently. We want to have them in our hands and only sell what we have. And this way there's no backup. You can still order the Yellow Army shirts. There is obviously a little bit of a delay in that because we have so many orders for those shirts. It was nice to see so many of them at the event on Saturday with Sheena and D-Rocks. And we're working on some other events like that we'll be able to share with you hopefully in the next few weeks. But thanks for coming out on Saturday. Thanks for ordering the shirts. And thanks for getting our numbers up to over 72,000. And we'll keep things posting on Facebook when all the news comes out. We'll see you Friday night from Mango Rita's for the happy hour show at 5:00. Thanks a lot, everybody. Bye-bye.